Hello, Mark Biasotti with Dassault Systems SolidWorks, and recently I promised some of my colleagues here at SolidWorks that I would put together a quick demo for them on the power surfacing add-in for SolidWorks that was just introduced at SolidWorks World 2013. So I thought a good example to use to demonstrate that is something that I created a couple of years ago, and you might have seen this in some of our brochures and adverts of this Xbox game controller. Pretty difficult shape to make back then and even now, and the actual file for that is right here. It's about a 450 feature file, of which about let's see, well, let's find out. The main shape, which is this, one half of it, which is the most difficult part, is, I don't know, about 150, 120 features. So let's go to feature statistics and take a look. Yeah, so 125 features, 6 surfaces, 4 solids. So that right there, actually, being a very difficult thing to achieve, can actually be done with one feature in the new power surfacing add-in. So let's get to that. Let me just show you how I did that for this shape. Okay, so I have this start part for this controller, and in it I have sketch pictures of the top, the back, and the right side of the controller. I'm going to use those as reference as I start to build my power surface. So you can start with primitives in power surface. I usually like to start with a sketch. And so on this rear plane, I'm just going to start simply sketching out a 4-sided box that kind of roughly takes the shape of the rear of the controller. Okay, let's get this centered in this window. And with that sketch selected, then I'm going to go to power surfacing, and then right here I'm going to drop down. Here you can see some of the other primitives. I'm going to just say create from sketch. And I can create a solid or a surface. I'm going to choose solid. And so now it will build that initial sub-D shape in my viewport. Let's first move this down so that's right about here. And then what we're going to do is to start to take the faces on the mirror plane, and I'm going to add a crease to it. Okay, and I'm going to do the same for the rear. And then let's take everything again and kind of get it aligned right there. Okay, so there's my rough shape. Now the objective is to start to subdivide it and shape it so that it conforms to the shape of my controller. So to do that, I'm just going to immediately go and double-click on this edge of the control polygon. And when I do that, I get a automatic loop selection of those edges. And if I right-click on that, then I can subdivide it. Okay, you have this little widget here where if you move up, you can increase the number of divisions, and then you can do some adjustment here. I usually just leave it where it is. And now let's move to the front of the controller, and I'll work on the front view first. Now I like to use transparency because when I do that, then I can kind of see through to my sketch picture. So that's why what I did right there. And now I'm going to start to do some adjustments. So simply just box selecting using the automatic selection is going to select anything that's fenced. And in this case, it's the front and rear vertices here of this edge, or the edge itself. So I'll start moving those around to get a better shape of the rear of that controller. And that's essentially what I'm doing here. Now, after doing this just a bit, I noticed that I'm probably going to have to do a little more subdivision. Let me just pull that straight up so I can keep my alignment. Oops, keep my alignment on my mirror plane. Okay, so yeah, it's pretty close, but you know, I know I'm going to have to subdivide in this direction, so I'm just going to go ahead and do that. So let me double click here, and again, you can see that selects a whole loop of edges in that direction. And then I'll simply just right click and add one division right there. Now, here's an interesting little option. There's an option to preserve the shape, and if you don't have that on, in most cases, when you subdivide, the adjacent faces of what you divide are going to be reparameterized. That means they're going to change their shape also to conform C2 to the faces that you subdivide. If you turn this option on, it tries to preserve the shape a little better, and you can see that happening right there. And sometimes that's important. In this case, I think it's important. So I'm going to go ahead and accept that. Just have to make sure that you uncheck that the next time you do it if you don't want it. It's kind of stays in a persistent state. So now you can see that I can get much closer to kind of mimicking that shape like this. Another thing I'd like to do is, you know how these are kind of slanted? Really what I want to do is I really want these to be vertically aligned. So what I can do is take all of these verts and I can simply just rotate them. And that's what I'm doing here. And that might become obvious later on as I start to work on this more. And you can also see there's a kind of a misalignment here of these 3 points, not a straight edge vertically. So another thing I like to do is take these and then use the scale tool in one direction to kind of crunch them down. And I like to do that because I like order and I like things to look proper. So anyway, that's that. So, I mean, we have a pretty good kind of rough alignment here of what we need. So now I think it's time to move to the top view. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is kind of get this resized to meet down at the bottom right there. And then from this point on, it's a matter of kind of stretching out these faces to conform to this handle area. So I'm just going to simply take these and drag them down. And it looks like I can drag these points over to try to conform to this area right here, but I think what I'll do, well, maybe I will. No, I think I'll probably subdivide this one more time here. So I'm going to double click here. And again, you can see it's selected all 4 edges. And I'm going to insert another loop. Okay. So the reason for doing that, oh, and let's remember I have to turn off this preserve shape. And now I can just go in here and put it into a Subdive visualization mode. And now I can just work on the edges directly instead of the cage. And start to conform these. And the idea is to kind of get this spherical front end here and then get this tight corner down here. That's just going to take a little bit of adjustment in a number of areas. So this area is way too thin, or it's squashed. So I can take all these verts and then use my scale tool to pull these out. Let's kind of get some more space to move our widget. There, something like that. And then we can use the move tool to kind of move it over too. Oh, there we go. Okay, so we're getting close. Now with that reparameterization, we can go here and just readjust these a bit. And so the objective here is to work to get my 3 views pretty much aligned to what my design intent is for my sketch pictures. And that's essentially what I'm doing here, and that's part of this exercise. Okay, and then I want to move to the right view, but before I do that, I think I'm going to have to subdivide this area a bit more. So I'm going to go ahead and select this loop, insert a new edge here so we can get some more resolution and be able to tweak this area better. And then also, while I have these selected, I'm going to also then use that scale in one direction to kind of crunch these down. Okay, and grab these and move them up. And it's just a matter of just kind of tweaking on this to get something close to being horizontally placed on those verts. And then again, because everything reparameterizes, I'm just going to kind of move these back into position, take all these and rescale them down a bit, move them over a bit, and I'm getting close. There. Okay. Okay, so there's my shape so far, and it's gotten a long ways. I think I probably want to move this edge over a bit, so kind of get a better kind of alignment here with the sketch picture. Okay, so let's move to the right view. And now with this, from what we have here, I want to actually just bend all of this down, as you see in the sketch picture. So that's pretty simple to do. You can just take and then select all the verts, and then go to the bend tool, establish your direction, and then give it a bend. And so that's what I'm doing here. And now with that selection still there, I can actually pull out these. Let me make another selection just for these and pull them out. Actually, I don't want to really pull out all of that. I want to probably now pull out just this part. But one thing I like to do is just rotate my view using my Alt key, standard SolidWorks type of procedure, then select all of these, and then go to screen orientation for my triad. So now I can pull these kind of in a normal direction. Okay. And we can go back to my right view. And now we can, well, maybe we go back to this view. Now we can go back to this view and then maybe fatten these up by using our scale in one direction with a combination of a move. And then I think it's just a matter of pulling these back a bit to get kind of the shape we want. Okay, and then grabbing these verts and edges and pulling them forward. Yeah, so now we're getting close. Yeah, that's what I want. So here you can see in a 3D view, it's a little bit of adjustment. We need to do some of these verts. So I'm going to go ahead and pull those down a bit. This one needs to come down a bit. Okay. So we're getting pretty close to what I want for the controller. And you can see how easy that is. And the dynamicness of pulling on it really aids the designer in understanding the shape and getting what he wants. I think I want probably this edge to just drop in a little bit more. Okay, that's looking pretty good. So now let's flip over to the bottom. And we have this other detail, which is this trigger area you can see in the two sketches that comes out from that bottom right side grip area. And so I want to actually create that in this area here, but I have to subdivide an area to pull up some new topology for that kind of volcano shape. So before I do that, I'm just going to take these points, go to local triad orientation, and then scale them away from each other so I can kind of build a space to do that. Okay, and that's what I'm doing here. Now, while I'm at it, I think I'm going to take and double-click this and then subdivide this area one more time. Okay, and let's try to do that with preserving the shape. That'll help. Okay. And then now what I can do is, let's take a look at where we are. It's preserved it pretty well. I can do some adjustments later, but now with that area, I can go in and use my Insert Edge tool to actually build in some new topology that's going to represent the top of that kind of pulled out shape. Okay? So now I can grab all 4 of these, and let me just go on our global axis, just pull, maybe I'll go local, and just pull out, okay, to match something close to that height. Okay? So while you have that selected, then you can take, with that selection, right-click and say, add a crease, okay, which is weighting it 100% to an edge. And then also while I'm there, I should probably flatten that area. So I'm just going to use a little iron icon to flatten that. And now if I go back to my side view, you see that we have a flat kind of surface there. We can rotate that a bit and move it into position per my sketch picture reference. Maybe scale it down a little bit. And now we're getting close to what we want. Now, but again, to get that kind of volcano shape coming up, we're going to have to subdivide the surrounding area so we can get a little bit more control. So what I'm going to do is pick this loop of 4 edges, right-click, and put in a new edge loop. And then going back to my right view, I can then, with that selection, I can then scale it appropriately. That's what I'm doing here. So I'll just take these verts, move them up to this area. Take these verts, kind of move them so that matches. Let's go to our rear view, see how we're doing. You can see that this whole area has to move over, okay? So I think what I'll do is just collect, all the verts here, go to my rear view, and then maybe just do a rotate and a move to move those over. Something like that. Okay. There we go. So I know there's going to be an issue here because I've kind of crunched in on this part of the sub D. So I'm going to have to relax that a bit, and I can just do that by taking these 3 verts and just scaling them apart from each other, like so. And then a helpful tool for me is now if I turn off, well, let me leave on my transparency. Let's just put this down here for a minute. Let's go and bring up our section floater. And so now I can actually put sections in here and cutaways. We can move that cutaway to something right about here. And then we can increase the number of sections just to get some visual clue of what we're doing with the sub D. And now with that, I can actually pull on these points and get a little bit better, smoother type of transition here. We can turn off the cutaway for a moment. Here's my section lines. Here's my actual vertice for my sub D. So as I pull on that, now I'm back into the edit with the gizmo. So here I can actually just pull on that. I think maybe pulling down on this area a bit will help. And we can turn these on and off to kind of inspect. This probably wants to move away just a bit more to relax that area. And so now I can get a pretty nice smooth transition there between the two. So I'm just going to turn off that for the time being. There's also some helpful tools, like for instance, if these kind of move, these verts move, and you want to try to get some alignment here, you can bring up the alignment tool, alignment floater, and the two most useful tools that I see here, well, I think they're all useful at times, but the ones I use the most are just aligning a row of verts. And the way you do that is you pick the first vert and the last vert, and then any verts in between, and hit the alignment tool. And what it's going to do is it's going to align those verts. And that's pretty much what I'm doing there. So now I've got a nice flat surface. You know, you can go back in and just put a flat on it again if you want. So that's the way that works. So at this point, another really helpful thing to do is, see, I only built half of this because eventually in SolidWorks I am going to have just half of it solid and then add some more parametric symmetrical features and then mirrored eventually. What I can do in Power Surfacing while I'm in here is I can actually add a mirror. So if I go here and say mirror and then pick this face, I can actually just mirror that across. Now, sometimes you get some misalignment here, and that's because maybe these points were pulled away from this right surface a bit. One of the things that is helpful, let me just put the weighting back into this. One of the things that's helpful sometimes is to just take and be able to align these points to some SolidWorks reference, like this right plane. So if I go back to my floater for alignment and I pick these verts, let's just pick all of those, and then go to this tool, which is to snap to a selected geometry plane. Then I can pick this plane, and now they're all aligned exactly to that plane. Okay, and that's probably a good thing to do before you do any mirroring across that mirror plane. So again, let's go back to mirror and pick this face, and now we have a mirror. And what's nice is you can toggle this mirror on and off. Here, the reason that I did this is because now I want to check the entire model and see how I'm doing as far as mirroring across the mirror plane. And here, what's important to me is that this actually kind of gets a nice arc value across the mirror. So as I pull on this, you can see this behaves symmetrically, and I get that by working on this area to get a nice, you know, arced surface across the mirror plane. Likewise, if I go to the top view here, I'm looking pretty good here, but you know, if I wanted to do any adjustment here, I could actually, you know, pull down on these, and get, you know, symmetry happening on both sides. So yeah, that's got to move in a little bit more. Probably want to relax that a bit, something like that. And then, you know, with the symmetry, it really helps to have this and make sure that I get a nice transition across my mirror plane. So that's the full model. Anyway, now what I can do, let me do one more thing. Let's turn off our mirror just for right now. And let's say that if we turn back on our transparency here, you can see there's a little bit of an arc to the back end of this. So again, what I can do is I can just select these verts, go to my bend tool, and then bend those down a bit. Okay, and then while I have just those selected, I can pull those out to match. Looks like I need to pull these out a bit to match here. So anyway, looking pretty good, pretty close to what I want. and very quick to create that versus having to do it in the traditional SOLIDWORKS curved surface modeling. So at this point, I can just click on this button here, and now it converts to a regular NURB solid in SolidWorks, and you can see it here in the feature manager and the solid body right here. So let's see. Let's just turn off temporarily these sketch pictures. Take a look at what we have. So if I had decided not to mirror that, or if I remove the mirror, that's probably what I've done. When I take this further, let's just take this and cut this solid using that. So I can insert a cut using that surface. So insert cut with surface. We'll remove that side. And then we're going to go and shell this. So I'm going to go ahead and select this face, put in a shell of 1/10 of an inch. And there we have our shell. Okay. So that's pretty much it. Pretty simple to use, lots of features to create complex models. And now I can take this further in SOLIDWORKS to start to add various features. You know, just for instance, if I wanted to cut through the top with an area cut out for my controller area, you know, I can do that now. Just do a cut here, just really quick, mid-plane, and go ahead and cut away the model. And there you can see it's valid solid. Any changes that I make upstream will then be reflected back into my features. So if for some reason I wanted to really kind of like pull these up or pull this point way up in my model, simply make those changes, go back, update my model, it's rebuilding the features, and there you have it. Okay, well, I think that's all for now. Hope you can try this out for yourselves and see how it works for you. Thanks for listening.